Bryan Pruitt is a conservative Republican who is living in Kansas now. He's running for the United States Senate, in fact, in Kansas. And I've known Bryan for many years. It was a fascinating conversation about today's impeachment vote. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to our channel. And on the line with us is our old friend Bryan Pruitt. He is a Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate in Kansas. Pruitt. Number 4, Kansas.com, P-R-U-I-T-T, number 4, Kansas.com is his website. You can tweet him at Bryan Pruitt. He also writes for Red State. And Bryan, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
My
How are
pleasure.
things going?
I beg your pardon?
I said, how are things going? Thanks for having me.
Things are going well, and particularly given that we now have a couple of articles of impeachment, and that whole kerfuffle is over, and they're tightly focused, not even on Donald Trump getting rich or even getting reelected, but on the damage to national security. That's the main frame that these two articles are being done through. And I'm just curious what your take is on this, and how you think the Republicans are going to be responding to that. In fact, let me just add, one of the points that I've been making for some time now is that if there's not a vigorous pushback against the behavior that Donald Trump has been engaging in, and I wouldn't limit it just to Ukraine, but and I'm sure you're familiar with the long list of crimes and high crimes and misdemeanors. If there's not a vigorous pushback, basically what we're doing is ratifying that behavior for future presidents who may be smarter and slicker and more strategic and more willing to become overt demagogues or even dictators than Donald Trump. And that concerns me tremendously. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Bryan.
Well, here's what I can tell you. First and foremost, this is not a huge issue outside of Washington, D.C. When I'm on the campaign trail here in Kansas, people are talking about immigration. They're talking about other issues. They're talking about, the tariffs. The tariffs right now here in Kansas, they're affecting farmers a lot more than the impeachment is. And so I think while Washington is going to be completely overtaken by this process, and obviously it's going to be, carried on the news 24/7, it sounds like the Republicans in the Senate have a plan to at least hold a trial, but make it relatively fast. A day is a lifetime in politics. So I don't think we'll be talking much about this regardless come February, March, April during all the primaries.
Interesting. And you fully expect the Senate to fail to convict him?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think the interesting thing that I would pay attention to Republicans maybe making a specific point and how the Democrats have potentially overreached was the note from on page 5 that I'll give the correct credit that Darren Samuelson tweeted out, was that there's this whole line about disqualification to hold and enjoy office of honor, trust, or profit. Mm-hmm. And I think as Republicans, the decision on that
that's a quote from the Constitution.
Right. But that decision is made by voters. And I think you're going to see a lot of Republicans, when they do analysis on this, when they go on cable news, talk about how, again, we've made it clear that we think these issues should be settled at the ballot box. My personal opinion, I don't agree with what the president did. But anybody who didn't know this is the way he did business when he was in New York and expected him to behave differently, I think was fooling themselves. And I think the American people made the choice that they did. They'll get another chance and come next November.
Well, 3 million of the American people more than voted for, Trump got 33 million votes, Hillary Clinton got 36 million. But I get, we've got the Electoral College and all that. Interesting.
Yeah, my favorite line when people mention that is there really is no such thing as the popular vote. People keep saying the popular vote, the popular vote. There is no such thing. We have an Electoral College.
Well, there is such a thing. It just doesn't matter politically, unfortunately. And therefore, we've had, I think, four presidents who won the White House after losing the popular vote. In the Senate, we're talking with Bryan Pruitt. He's a Republican candidate for U.S. Senate in Kansas, and I knew Bryan from back in Washington D.C. when you were a political consultant, a Republican consultant,
yep.
and you used to write for Red State. I assume you still do. And
let me tell you, I'll make one other quick point.
Sure.
I think the other mistake that the Democrats have made is doing this all between the holidays. When everybody out here in Kansas is busy with their families over Thanksgiving, is busy getting ready for Christmas and New Year's. And so I think a lot of this is lost on average Americans.
Yeah, that may be the case. Now, Mitch McConnell has said, Donald Trump has said that everybody's expecting that the House impeachment vote will happen this week or next week. I mean, Steny Hoyer has to get out there and whip the votes, and once they know, they'll do it.
Yep.
And boom, then it goes off to the Senate. Donald Trump has said he wants the vote in the Senate, or the trial in the Senate, and then the ultimate vote in the Senate to be held before Christmas. In other words, he wants Mitch McConnell to fast-track this. Mitch McConnell said, no way, we're going to wait until after the first of the year. And there is some speculation that, Mitch McConnell is doing that because he wants to mess with the 5 senators. I believe it's 5 Democratic senators who are running for president right now. 4 high-profile ones. You take out Michael Bennet. And so you've got that theory. Another theory is that, and Claire McCaskill floated this morning, that Mitch McConnell will let some of the vulnerable Republicans actually vote for impeachment. Joni Ernst, Tom Tillis, Cory Gardner, Martha McSally, and Susan Collins, and who knows what Mitt Romney is going to do. On the other hand, on the Democratic side, at the very least, you've got Joe Manchin, who nobody knows which way he's going to go. How are you, as a Republican and as somebody who's got his ear pretty close to the ground right now because you're running for Senate in Kansas? And by the way, who are you running against?
Oh gosh, there's a ton of people in the race, and everybody, the big unknown in the race is whether Secretary Pompeo is going to get in.
Yeah,
so it's made the race complicated, but hopefully we'll know an answer to that sooner rather than later.
When's the Kansas primary?
Kansas primary is not till next August. Filing deadline is in June. So we've got a lot of runway to work with.
Yeah, and Pompeo's got a lot of time. So anyhow, to my question, handicapping this vote and how it's going to play out from the perspective of a Republican, what do you think?
I don't think any Republican is going to vote for impeachment. That is my initial take on this, because I don't see any Republicans losing independent voters over this impeachment issue. I don't think this is what motivates them. I don't think they're going to I doubt that they'll have commercials run against them about that they voted to acquit the sitting president of the United States. I just don't see it as for any of those that you named it being that huge of an issue either way.
The Republican Party, I mean, I grew up with my father was a Republican literally till the day he died. And he was very concerned about the integrity of the political process. And he was an Eisenhower Republican. He was concerned about national security. He was a big advocate of the idea that politics stops at the water's edge. I don't understand what has happened to the Republican Party if you could say and believe that the majority of Republicans don't really, frankly, care that this guy has been breaking the law. I mean, from paying off porn stars not to say anything, that was a clear violation of election law, to refusing to participate in congressional oversight, which is mandated by the Constitution. In this case, in the context of impeachment, my mind is boggled, Bryan.
It is a different party, and some people refer to it as Trump's party and not the Republican Party anymore. That's not necessarily true. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Republicans that are both supporting the president, but also, trying to secure the party's future. That's one of my reasons I'm running.
But aren't people concerned that you can get a Democratic demagogue that if let's say President Bernie Sanders, Bernie Sanders gets elected and says, okay, I'm going to do these things, and damn it, Republicans don't want to go along with me. I'm going to do them by executive order, and I'm going to push them through, and I'm going to get the Venezuelans to help me out.
I think we are in unique times, and I think everyone admits that Donald Trump is a once in a lifetime, once in a generation, maybe once in a history of a country figure.
Right.
And I don't think that there's a lot of concern about us getting to a point of no
Bush
return.
lied us into a war, and there was no pushback to that. That concerns me tremendously. It seems to me like our whole political system is slowly disintegrating, and has been ever since the 1970s when the Supreme Court legalized, bribery of politicians.
Well, I don't know if I would call it that, but
well, they legalized big money in politics in '76 with the Buckley case.
One of the things that's most important that we do, and this is one of my campaign platform pledges, is we have to return Congress to its appropriate role in making the decisions. Just like you mentioned, executive orders. I don't support executive orders from either side because Congress needs to be debating if there's anything that is causing deterioration of our political process. It's the fact that Congress, either 9 unelected judges or by executive order, decisions are being made without the input of the people's representatives. And that's what we have to return to, is getting the Congress to debate and decide the issues of the day.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And by the way, instead of using Bernie Sanders as an example, that was terrible. Bernie would never do that. I should have used Huey Long, because Huey Long would have done that in a heartbeat, right?